At the end of May, the legislature passed a $38.5 billion budget for fiscal year 2019, which begins July 1st. Among the items included in the budget are $350 million more for K-12 education. 2% more goes for higher education. $25 million is targeted to a new grant program for higher education called Aim High. On Monday, June the 4th in Chicago, Governor Rauner, joined by members of the legislature from both sides of the aisle, signed the $38.5 billion budget into law and made comments about why this year was different than the previous 3 years in which he challenged and refused to sign the state budget. This runs about 30 minutes.
We are signing a balanced budget for the first time in many years, on time, and make great forward progress for the people of Illinois. This is a budget that was put together on a bipartisan basis. It is a compromise. It is not perfect, but is a good step in the right direction. I would personally like to thank Speaker Madigan and President Cullerton, Leader Brady, Leader Durkin, the members of the General Assembly gathered here today and also around the state of Illinois. This was a great team effort, a great bipartisan effort, very hard work, many long days, many long hours. I would like to thank members of our budget committees, our budgeteers, members of the General Assembly who worked tirelessly to bring this budget to a reality. I'd also like to thank members of our administration, especially Hans Zygmunt and his outstanding team at the Office of Management and Budget. Hans and his folks did an outstanding job working with members of the General Assembly, working with me personally and senior members of my staff to negotiate this budget to move the state forward. This is a very, very good day. This budget is one that we can find many things to celebrate. And let me highlight a few things I'd like to particularly emphasize for you. First of all, to get it balanced, we were able to agree on a bipartisan basis to eliminate some new spending. We saved actually $1.5 billion from spending that would have been occurring if just left to the process as it had been going on in the past. This was historic. We stopped some incremental new spending. We took what the different departments had asked for and reduced that by about $1 billion. I want to thank everyone. It's not easy to make cuts, but reductions in spending were made, and I'd like to thank everyone for the discipline to achieve that. I particularly want to call out education and the progress we're continuing to make in education. We are doing historic things to improve educational quality and opportunity for the students of Illinois. This budget continued what I, as governor, have strived to do every year, set record school funding for K-12 schools. We are now up more than $1.4 billion annually for K-12 state support. This is historic, and it reverses the trends that had happened in many years before I became governor of cuts to education funding from the state. We have increased every year, and this year we're up again, $350 million. It's the right thing to do. We want the best schools in America in every community. And now, with the new education funding formula we strove to put in place, my team led that effort, but it was done on a bipartisan basis by the General Assembly. We now have more equitable, more fair school funding across the state of Illinois. This is wonderful progress. We also have record school funding for early childhood education. Not K-12, but prior to kindergarten. We now have record funding. We put $50 million more into early childhood education. Since I became governor, that number is up more than $200 million and reverses cuts that have been occurred in prior years, prior to my becoming governor. And I want to applaud the General Assembly on a bipartisan basis for bringing that to a reality. And now we are moving further up in the education spectrum for our state. We want to increase funding for our higher education, and we made progress in that regard in this budget. We increased state support for our universities by more than $25 million beyond what had been done in the past, and we now have a $50 million merit merit-based scholarship program to keep more students in state and fund our university system through that process. We now have a new 4-year MAP grant program as well. And we want to every year increase support for our universities and our community colleges in the state of Illinois. And this budget makes major progress in moving that forward as well. I'd also like to comment beyond the #1 priority of education on several other major accomplishments. I'm particularly pleased about this budget. I have been a longtime advocate for adoption and adoption services in the state of Illinois, and we now, for the first time in Illinois history, we have a tax credit program for adoptions in the state of Illinois. Never been done before. Many states do not have a tax credit program for adoption. We in Illinois now are moving adoption services forward. We want to bring down the high cost of adoption in Illinois. We now have a $5,000 tax credit program for adopting Illinois children. It's historic. It's a major step in the right direction. We need to bring down the high cost of adoption and support our families that would like to adopt children. This is major, and I'm very proud, very pleased, and I want to thank the General Assembly for doing that on a bipartisan basis. I'd also like to call out the progress on the Illinois Innovation Network and the Discovery Partners Institute. The University of Illinois is one of the greatest technology and innovation schools in the world. They are already an economic engine, major economic engine for the state of Illinois, particularly in Champaign, but around the state. We want to take Illinois to the next level of excellence and impact for the Illinois economy. This budget authorizes $500 million for the state to invest into the University of Illinois for their expansion of their innovative research, expansion around the state, in Champaign, in Chicago, in Rockford, in Peoria, and in partnership with many other communities around the state, Bloomington Normal, the Quad Cities, Carbondale as well. We want to take the innovative research being done at the University of Illinois, expand it, and have it drive economic growth and investment and major job creation across the state of Illinois. We can do in Illinois what other states have done in New England with their universities, in the West Coast with their universities. We can do it here because we've got one of the biggest, greatest universities in the world at the U of I. We are helping them expand in partnership with the U of C and Northwestern. Major step forward. In the coming years, we can drive massive economic growth, new careers, high-paying jobs through this investment in the Discovery Partners Institute. This budget helps get that done. Major step forward. I'd also like to thank the General Assembly for moving forward on the promises we made to each other and, most importantly, to the veterans of Illinois. We are now moving forward to completely replace the Quincy Veterans Home water system and residential units. They are antiquated. They should have been replaced 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Now we're going to have an entirely new water system, entirely new modern residences for our heroes who reside in the Quincy Veterans Home. This budget moves that process forward. I would like to thank members of the General Assembly for doing that as well. And then one other point, a justice, a fairness point for me personally. I'd like to thank the General Assembly. We are now going to pay the back pay that we have owed to state employees for years. Former Governor Quinn negotiated a salary increase for state employees a number of years ago. That increase was not appropriated in the past. It was never paid. That is not fair. It is not right. Whether anyone particularly agrees or disagrees with the negotiation or what former Governor Quinn did, once an agreement is made, that agreement should be honored. This has been an issue for me personally. I don't think it's fair. It's not just. We began to work on this issue legally last year, and we came together as part of this budget to get the back pay paid to the state employees that were negotiated it in good faith years ago. This is progress. This is moving the state forward. I also want to celebrate the fact we're going to get another cadet class of 100 new state troopers. We need more state troopers to help here in Chicago, but around the state, increase public safety, and this budget funds that. We also get $1.6 million to further our battle against the opioid epidemic that's ravaging too many of our communities in the state. I would also like to thank the General Assembly for moving forward with the Cairo port. Cairo is an economically deprived area of the state in the far southern tip. But it is a unique location with wonderful, hardworking people, and we are now going to move forward with the development of a major new port on the Mississippi River in the community of Cairo, and this budget allows the initial funding for that development, which in the end I believe will be almost entirely funded by private resources, not taxpayer resources, but this will be a public-private partnership, and we're moving forward with some funding for that as well. So there are many things to celebrate in this budget. And again, I want to thank the members of the General Assembly for their bipartisan compromise, and with that, for further comments, I'd like to ask Leader Brady to come to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. There are a lot of people here to acknowledge in the success of the product that we've given here today. First, to my Democratic colleagues in both the House and the Senate and their leadership through President Colleton and Speaker Madigan. Compromise isn't easy to come about, but it's important for us, particularly in a bipartisan state like this, that we work together to do what's right for the state of Illinois and its people. I also want to thank Leader Durkin. Leader Durkin has been a longtime friend of mine, and it was a real honor to work with him and his caucus members to bring this package to a successful conclusion, that we can work toward enhance the lives of the people of Illinois by working through this budget. To my colleagues, Senate Republicans, I thank them specifically here today. A member of my leadership team, Pamela Altoff. I asked Pam how she felt about this, and she said it's just great to finally vote for a budget before I retire. And Pam helped to negotiate this, as she has throughout the years. Also, as the governor acknowledged, Senator Fowler was instrumental in working with the governor and the governor's leadership to bring the Cairo investment that I think will bring a great advantage, not just to Illinois, but particularly to the southern part of the state and to the businesses that will benefit from this transportation hub. And also to our budget leader, Chapin Rose, member of my leadership team, who fought hard to meet the guidelines and the objectives outlined by the governor. As you all know, Chapin is a staunch advocate for higher education. And as the governor indicated, a priority of ours was that we do more to build higher education, not just through the Discovery Partners Initiative here in Chicago, but throughout all of higher education. Because higher education not only is the foundation of our future workforce, but it's also an economic development engine that we benefit from. I also and mostly want to thank the governor. The governor realized early on in the meetings with our caucuses and Leader Durkin that Illinois needed a win. Last summer, we saw a big win when it came to an education reform proposal, a package that moved Illinois, I think, to the forefront of this nation when it comes to educational funding and putting our children first. Governor realized we needed to continue on that path, and that required a balanced budget that reinforced the investment in education. The governor instructed us, as he laid out in his budget, I want a balanced budget without relying on further tax increases. And one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's not easy in a bipartisan way, but to have a budget that is workably balanced and that doesn't rely on increasing the tax burden on families and businesses. This governor led that charge. And with that, we were able to develop a product that I think the people of Illinois can be happy about, proud of, and can move our state forward in so many of the ways that the governor outlined. So I'm pleased and honored to represent the Senate Republican caucus as their leader and to work with my colleagues not only in my caucus, but in Leader Durkin's caucus and Speaker Madigan's and President Colleton's. But without the governor's leadership, we wouldn't be here today. So, Governor, thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Leader Durkin.
Thank you. Good morning. First and foremost, Governor, thank you for your leadership and stewardship on this very important issue. About a month and a half ago, you had sent a letter to all members of the General Assembly that you are asking for a balanced budget and also for one that does not rely upon new taxes. And we were able to accomplish that goal. We did because the Democrats engaged the Republicans and we laid out our priorities, both sides. And I have said over and over again that I will negotiate on any issue with the Democrat majority as long as they respect the priorities of the Republican Party. And in this case, they did. The men and women behind me reflect, I believe, a new attitude of Springfield, one that encourages but also demands bipartisan cooperation. This is what happens when we work together. Leader Brady brought up a situation from last summer in which we worked in a collaborative manner to take on probably the most difficult issue that is we've seen in Illinois in decades, and that's our education funding formula. No one wanted to touch it for years. It was considered third rail politics, but we believe it was not only the right thing to do legally, but also morally, to make sure that every child in Illinois would be able to get a good investment. Every child would have a proper investment in education, and they would have that opportunity. So as we stand here today, we can talk about two situations where we have been brought into the fold in which we've, on very important issues, on a budget, education reform. My challenge is to Speaker Madigan and President Cullerton to do more of this with us, engage us more, if you want to see success. Our public and our citizens are demanding it. So we've got more opportunities and more work ahead of us. This budget is a start, but a budget is a living, breathing document that requires attention during the course of the year, and that means it's going to require cooperation to ensure that it will be balanced. And I believe we can, because I trust the men and women who are behind me. So with that being said, I want to talk about my caucus and the great work that they did. First and foremost, my two budgeteers, Representative Patty Bellock of Hinsdale and Representative Tom Demmer from Dixon, who did the legwork on this very important job between the shuttle diplomacy that went on continually over the past month. Also here joining me today is Representative Randy Freese, who has been a outspoken but also a very, very strong supporter of the Quincy Veterans Home, and I know he has a few words to say. I also am joined by Representative Mark Batnick, who was able to incorporate in this budget savings within our pension systems, and he will say a few words. And I'm also joined by Representative Grant Worley, who's here today as well. But today is just a start. This is a framework for us to move forward as a General Assembly, Republicans and Democrats, to take on every major issue. We can get it done no matter what the challenge is. So with that, I want to turn the microphone over to Senator Staines.
All right, well, I'm delighted to be here in this circumstance, wearing purple intentionally, merging together the Republicans and the Democrats. You know, I really do believe that the process was what it should be, with everybody coming together and creating a product. And I think three terrific benefits come from doing it in a bipartisan fashion. One, everyone has to hold each other honest, and you get a much better outcome on the actual detail of these budgets. When it's not just one party dictating to another, you really do get a better outcome. I believe that to my core. Second, you know, I think it produces a product that just got a lot more confidence by the residents of Illinois when we've come together and accomplished this, as it should be. People have a lot more faith, I think, when they know everyone had a seat at the table and participated in developing the product. And then finally, I think it provides a real foundation, I hope, for a process going forward to deal with some bigger issues we still have. The budget's not perfect. It is truly balanced, but we still have a lot of challenges in the state of Illinois and that we have not yet tackled. And I really hope that doing it in this fashion provides a foundation for which we can continue to delve deeply into the significant problems we have in Illinois and give confidence to everybody that lives here that we can actually tackle those problems. And this is, as I say, process as it should be, dealing with the budget in a bipartisan, bicameral fashion. And I particularly just want to call out the folks that I worked with many hours, Tom Demmer, Greg Harris in the House Democrat, Andy Munar, my other Senate Democratic colleagues, and Toy Hutchinson and LG Sims, who are not here today. And then Chapin Rose and Dale Ryder. I know Chapin's here, Dale Ryder's not able to make it, but we spent many hours in the room together, and I think because of that, and because of the developing trust that we all developed, we came to a much better product. Thank you very much. Oh, and next up, I will turn it over to Representative Demmer, Tom Demmer, one of my colleagues who I spent way too much time with.
I'm not sure how to take that. Well, good morning. I'm really pleased to be here this morning, joined by so many colleagues who work together in a true bipartisan way, as well as the governor and the governor's Office of Management and Budget. This truly was the result of good faith negotiations by all stakeholders together at the table. As you've heard before, and you'll hear several times today, this should be a template for us of how we can move forward productively, collaboratively as a state. This budget is workable, it's realistic, it's balanced, and it gives us confidence for the upcoming fiscal year. but that's hardly the only challenge that's facing Illinois. And I think we need to come to the table with the same kind of enthusiasm, the same kind of openness, and the same kind of bipartisan spirit that helped us give stability to the people of Illinois this year, to help us bring new opportunities, new jobs, to solve some of the long-running and chronic problems that have faced the state. This is a formula for success. I think we as House Republicans stand ready and willing to work collaboratively on issues in the future, and I know that many of the folks on this stage do as well. So I look forward to continuing to work towards those solutions, not just for any given fiscal year, but really for a brighter future and a better opportunity for people across the state. Thank you. And with that, I'll bring up Representative Greg Harris.
So good morning, and thank you. Like everyone else, I'm really pleased to be here this morning with another balanced budget for the state of Illinois. The budget that we were able to pass this year built on the foundations laid by the budget we passed last year on a bipartisan basis. And as the other speakers said, we do have a template now for moving forward on this issue in coming years and on other issues in this coming session and throughout the summer and fall. But this budget did many things. I want to highlight a couple others that the governor didn't get a chance to go through in his list. Is that we are expanding access to mental health and substance abuse treatment across Illinois. We are adding money to violence prevention initiatives in cities and towns across the state. We are restoring and increasing funding for homeless youth, and we are also providing wage increases to the frontline workers who deal with our most vulnerable citizens, seniors, the disabled, mental health workers, substance abuse counselors, supportive living facilities folks, all of this which are necessary to keep them operating in our communities. And as other people said, we couldn't have done this if we all hadn't worked together, and that's a very important point. We could not have done this if we all hadn't worked together. As was mentioned a couple times, the education bill, which in our caucus, the effort was led by Representative Will Davis, the chairman of our Elementary and Secondary Education Committee. Public safety initiatives are championed by Representative Kelly Cassidy, the chairman of Public Safety Approps, and general state operations by Fred Crespo, chairman of General Services Committee for House Democrats. So I'm very happy to be here this morning. We're happy to keep moving forward and hope we're back here several more years. So thank you.
Senator Rose.
Thank you, Chapin Rose, 51st Senate District. Again, thanks to the governor and the leaders of both parties who had enough confidence and the folks who stand behind me to go in a room and try to work this thing through. I just want to say a couple items. First of all, this budget was made possible by about $1.5 billion that was cut or stopped. But more importantly, what we did is prioritize. We prioritized K-12. And I want to particularly talk about prioritizing higher education. The brain drain that we've all read about, that's going to stop. Another bipartisan working group that was bicameral, bipartisan, 12 members, had a very successful year on analyzing, looking at, meeting with our universities, determining what needs to be done differently. And work product in this budget that's about to be signed here includes the institutional match program. We believe there'll be about another 6,000 students that will be able to stop leaving Illinois, and those will be aimed right at the best and the brightest. It goes to help middle-class families make higher education more affordable. And then, of course, we have the 4-year map change, which was revenue neutral, but we met with every single admissions director from every public university in the state, and they all told us they're getting killed at the doorstep by out-of-state recruiters who can offer a 4-year deal, and the state of Illinois' MAP program is only 1 year. So that's another budget or another bill for another day, but the brain drain is going to stop. And to have a vibrant, healthy economy, you have to have a highly educated, highly skilled workforce. And this, talk about priorities, K-12 and higher education. And with that, I think I'm supposed to turn this over to Representative Batnick.
Thank you. Mark Batnick, 97th District. I think one of the things that's been a little bit underreported in what's happened the last couple of days and what's about to happen is the pension reforms. And the pension reforms included in this budget offer serious savings to Illinois taxpayers for years to come. I realize that this is just a first step. There's more to do, but there's more we can do. I have a couple people to thank. Former Representative Elaine Neckrich, when I first brought a bill, I guess almost 3 years ago, we worked very hard on subject matter hearings. Representative Robert Martwick brought some new ideas that are included in this, and he's the current chairman of the pension committee, and we did subject matter hearings. We had about 3 years worth of subject matter hearings, and without those mundane subject matter hearings over the last several years, I don't think this pension reform could have come to fruition. Representative Fortner actually offered some things as well. I'd like to add that this is certainly something that can be expanded upon. The pension reforms included in this just include the state systems. This is something that maybe can be brought to all the, I think there's nearly 600 other pension systems. And if we bring it to that level, this is something that we can do to address the increasing property tax issue that we have. So there's a lot of people to thank, and this is really good, serious pension reform. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Althoff. Thank you.
Unexpected. I too want to thank the governor and both of the leaders that you see here, Leader Brady and Leader Durkin, as well as President Cullerton and Speaker Madigan, for allowing us to really get together for the first time in many, many years and have truly a bicameral, bipartisan meeting group that formulated a budget. As a former mayor, I think my pride and joy is the fact that we actually did keep our promise, or attempted to keep our promise as much as possible, to our local units of government. We cut in half the amount of money that the state was keeping for LGDF. I think that was important to those people locally who have maintained their budgets and have provided important services to our shared constituency. So I'm very happy to note that we are only withholding the 5% rather than the 10% that we did the prior year.
Thank you. Representative Freeze.
I think Senator Cullerton's on the list. He's here if you'd like to join us. Don't be shy. You never have before. You never have been shy before. Yeah.
Legislator Rauner, come on up.
You're up. Nice tie. I was hoping the budget had better traffic patterns in it, but apparently it did not for this morning. But I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I think this was an incredible task that was accomplished. It was accomplished by all the leadership, both houses, the governor's office. We truly needed this budget. This was an important step for the state of Illinois. Senator Rose talked about the brain drain. The fact is if you read magazines all throughout this country, Illinois is a commentary of what not to be. That stops with this budget. That stops with a lot of the hard work that got done this past session. So I want to thank both sides of the aisle for accomplishing that. I represent an area that's mostly both sides of the aisle. My district is half and half. And I think as you go around this state, that's what people expect, is to see people on both sides of the aisle talking together and working together. So I applaud all the leadership today. I thank the governor for signing this today. I look forward to getting one of those great pens after this is done. And I will now bring up, also one other thing. We actually got money for the Quincy Veterans Home. I have been pushing for the Quincy Veterans Home for us to stop what has been going on there and to fix it. This will immediately start that action. Hopefully Mike Hoffman will start having updates that you all will be proud of and you all will see. And with that, I'll bring in Representative Freeze.
State Representative Randy Freeze. I represent the 94th District in West Central Illinois, which includes the Quincy Veterans Home. I'd like to thank certainly Leader Cullerton, but for perhaps most of all, Governor Rauner for his being a tremendous advocate for veterans' causes throughout the state and a real champion for the Quincy Veterans Home. The budget signed today will help ensure that the next generation of veterans will have a wonderful place in the 210-acre facility that is the Quincy Veterans Home. We all pray for world peace, but we need to take care and prepare a place for our veterans who help us keep that peace. Thank you very much, Governor, and thank you for everyone.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Well, now we'll sign the budget.
Governor, if I might, I think it'd be inappropriate if we didn't recognize Hans and his budget team. The entire, as you can see, the entire General Assembly appreciated the hard work and effort and governor's leadership in putting you in that position.
Thank you.
We debated whether the leaders would carry this down. They were worried about throwing their backs out. So we had to